Welcome to my YouTube video focusing on the element of art, texture. This is an advanced lesson. You'll need paper and pencil. Let's have some fun. Hi everybody, this is Laura Houston, and today we're going to have a drawing lesson on texture, the element of art, texture. Now this is part 1 of 2. I'm going to put together 2 videos. Part 1 right now is we're going to draw the basic outline of a fish, and I thought that you might like to see how I draw a fish. So if you want to draw along with me, all you need is a pencil and a piece of paper. So to start our fish, I'm going to actually turn my paper vertically, and I'm going to start with a teardrop. I'm just going to draw like a regular teardrop. It doesn't have to be perfect. Something like this. Just comes like a teardrop, okay? You want to leave room up here because this is where the tail is going to be. And then if we turn the paper back, you see what's going to be the body of the fish. Somewhere around here, we're going to make a mouth, like a little happy fish. And then up here, you can make a circle for an eye. I'm going to darken it a little bit. And then inside, we'll kind of make the pupil. Kind of leave a little indentation where the sparkly white part would be. And then following from here, we're going to follow this curve up. I'm just going to go right back over my curve. And we're going to be shading with texture in the second video. So don't worry too much right now about shading or texture. This is just going to go here. So you have like the little face part of the fish. If you want, we can do a couple of little lines up here for gills. And then back here, let's work on the tail. So back here, about right here, you can put a little C shape right there. And just carry it out like this. And then wrap it back in to make a big tail. I'm gonna do the same thing here. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. That would be like a tail. And somewhere about right here, you're gonna make a line coming down here like this. And you know, if I'm drawing too fast, you can obviously pause your video. You can watch it over and over again. And then you're going to just take this out like this. And then this way. And then these lines would be a little side fin. And then up here, we're gonna go back a little bit. Maybe right here, you'll go up, draw up. This is the fin on top. And just have it come down closer and closer. Just like a little wavy line, way back to the tail. And when we start the texture video, which is part 2, I will put lines here and more detail. And one more thing before we stop, we will draw a small fin down here. So start with a line that goes out like this, and then kind of up like this, and back towards the body, okay? So that's the way that I make a fish. You know, you may have your own way of making a fish. Maybe you want to make the body longer. It's entirely up to you, but I just thought you might want to get started with these basics. So this is just line. So this actually would be the element of art line because we created the fish just using line. And now I'm going to pause the video and I'll start a new one, which showing you how to create texture, which will make the fish look more three-dimensional, because right now it's very flat looking, very two-dimensional, and texture will help us make the fish more three-dimensional. Thank you. Hi, this is Laura Houston again, and this is part 2 of texture. Part 1, I taught you how to draw this fish. In part 2, we're going to add texture to the fish. Remember, texture is the way that a surface looks or feels. So we're going to start, and I'm going to draw this lightly, but I'm not going to draw it too lightly that you can't see it. But we're setting up a grid for scales. So I'm just going to draw a line here without going over the top of that fin. Now really you'll want to do your lines softer, but just so the video will pick it up, I'm doing it a little bit darker. You're going to draw an X through your fish. Okay, and then now that we have these guidelines, you're going to repeat a pattern, kind of like a grid, and the scales will fit into that. See how I'm just continuing to make parallel lines to the original lines that I made. I'm not going to go over the top of the fin. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing here. And remember, if you want to watch this video again to see how I did this, you can. Now this grid that we just made, they're just guidelines for our scale. So now what you're going to do is you're going to use this grid on every single one. You're going to use it to make scales. So I'm just going to go through. You see that? Did anybody read The Rainbow Fish when you were little? That's what it reminds me of, the rainbow fish. See, now in this way, our scales are following a pattern. And I'm kind of pushing hard here, even though we're going to go back and shade them. And it's okay if they don't go on that line exactly, but you're just using that as a guide, because you want the scales to look like they are overlapping. I'm going to go through, I'm going to try to do this. See, and they don't have to be perfect, we're just sketching right now. I'm going to speed up a little bit. Now that I'm getting the hang of this, just kind of do some little marks here. Okay, now before we start shading, we need to understand that there's always going to be a light source. So imagine that our light source is coming from here. So I'll draw a little sun. So the top part of the fish will be lighter and the underside would get shaded darker. So I'm going to start down here and I'm going to leave a little the edges of the scales so that you leave the part white so that they still stand out as being separate scales. And of course these are going to be darker down here at the bottom because the light is not shining under here, under this part of the fish. And this will be darker. And then as I move up here, I'm going to start shading a little bit lighter because we're adding texture, which is also going to add depth and make our art more interesting and make it look a little more 3D. You probably already watched the first screencasts online, and you know I'm just kind of shading with my pencil, but you could do like little lines in here. Okay, and then up here, I'm going to just make it real light. And just keep going. I'll make this dark down here. And then lighter here. And if you want, you can kind of go back in and darken a little bit down here at the bottom. Okay, and then, you know, we can even carry this on here if you want to do a little shading on the underside of your fish's chin here. I don't know if fish have chins. And here's some gills right here. You can shade a little bit. And let's not forget the fins. So you're gonna have lines like this on the fin. You can do a little darker right here. See, by adding these lines and shading this area, we're making it look more three-dimensional, because that's what texture can do. Texture can make your drawings look more lifelike. I'm gonna add, how about some lines here on the back of this big tail that I drew. You want your lines to go in the direction that the tail is going in. See how my lines are following that? And then maybe I'll shade a little bit here. Do some shading here just to kind of make it look more interesting. And then let's also shade up here on this upper fin. So we're going to have our lines go out here in the direction that the fin would be coming off of his back. And we can even make them darker down here. I think that might be interesting. So we're adding some texture on the fin. Do some like this. Okay, and let's see, our fish is already looking a little more textured. If you kind of stand back and look at it, you know, maybe I'll darken this right here. I could work on this tail a little bit more. And then what you could do is you might want to add you know, more of the fish's environment. You could add, you know, the ground underneath. If maybe he were swimming at the bottom of the pond, maybe you want to add a few little bubbles and so on, and plants and maybe some water lines. But there you have it. That's a basic way to draw scales. And, you know, maybe you want to experiment with other, you know, even other reptiles. Maybe you want to try drawing a snake with scales like that, or even a dragon. Thank you. If you want to learn more, click on the link in the description below the video. As always, I'd love to see your art, and I might feature it in one of my upcoming videos. Thanks for watching.